welcome on stage Chinmay Sharma from Sabre. Thank you for being here. I take to give you the stage.
Yes.
And, we sit down after that, so please remain on stage after your keynote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was war das?
Good afternoon. So I'm here today to talk about the paradoxical consumer. So I'm sure all of you are thinking, what is this new animal in the zoo? We had consumer. What is the paradoxical consumer? So the answer is it's all of you. I mean, I'll take an example. You're all here at IDB Berlin for a conference for business, but then how many of you are spending some leisure time going to a museum or going to a nightclub or okay, you're not showing your hands, but I know you will be there. And especially if the strike comes on strike, then we'll be here on the weekend too. So the main idea behind the paradoxical consumer is human behavior. All of us might say something, but might do something completely different. And that's why it means a lot for travel companies as to how do we segment the customers and how do we market to this changing breed of consumers. So what does it mean for modern retailing? So if the consumer tells you one thing, but they behave differently, you have to plan for that. And how do you plan for that? So as an example, McKinsey did a research which said that 85% of the people said that the impact on environment is really important when they make their travel decisions. And then when you ask the same set of people, are you willing to pay a little bit extra for that trip so that we could do some carbon offsetting? And nearly all of them said that, no, we don't want to pay for it, but it's really important. So that's what it means by paradoxical consumer, where the behavior might be a little bit different than what they display, which is why the one-size-fits-all is not true anymore. Hyper-segmentation is here to stay, and you'll see that playing a role in modern retailing as well. So right from your music to movies to sports in your day-to-day life, you will see this. And a lot of digital native companies like Amazon and Google are putting more pressure on us as well. Because when the same consumer comes to our hotels or to any travel suppliers, they expect like a seamless omni-channel experience. And as you know, the travel industry is a little bit slow in adopting new tech. And even if our airlines move to new technology, but if hotels and car rentals and rail, they don't move to the same tech, then the experience is somewhat broken. So we'll speak a little bit more about that. But it has a big impact. The other thing is that the attention span of the human race is probably bringing shorter. A lot of it, I think, is because of social media. So if you have TikTok or Instagram, you get used to these small snippets and you lose track of time, but your attention span really reduces. So I think there is a saying that our attention span is less than that of a goldfish, which I hope that's not true. So Accenture calls it the human paradox. And what that means is exactly what I said, that the consumer behavior can seem contradictory to what they're saying. And that has a direct impact on all of us as travel suppliers, because you need to segment that customer in a way that you might hear what they say, but you also have to see what exactly are they doing, so that you're able to customize your products and services in such a way that not only the travel suppliers make more money, but also the guest or the traveler gets a better experience. So it's really important. McKinsey calls it the world of ands, which is, not only you might need to trade down, but at the same time you need to splurge. So one example could be that you might fly on a low-cost carrier, but then when you get to the destination, you might stay at a 5-star all-inclusive resort. So just because you thought that it's a cheap customer flying on a cheap airline, it's not the right segment for you. But you never know. They actually might be saving on travel because they might think that airlines is fully commoditized. I'll save that money and I'll spend it at a hotel. Same customer, very different behaviors. I already told you the example of sustainability and affordability. Everybody wants to do the right thing for the world, but they're not willing to pay for it. So how do you balance, those two things? One more example that we see in the hotel business especially is what we call bleisure, which is combining business and leisure. And especially after the pandemic, I think it's become really important for travel suppliers to be able to segment those consumers in the right way, because the purpose of visit is very different. And the work from anywhere concept has completely changed the way corporate travel is viewed and done, and that has a direct impact on all of us. So how do we make this better? And this is not only for one company, this has to be a cross-industry effort. At Sabre, everything that we do is at the center of what the customer wants to do. So the customer, be it a B2B customer like a travel agency or a B2C customer like the traveler himself or herself, they're at the center of everything that we do. We luckily touch various parts of the ecosystem, from travelers and corporations to agencies, TMCs. We work with a lot of tech and data providers, a lot of third parties, and then obviously with a lot of suppliers. And what that gives us is access to a lot of data. And how can we use that data to actually give better offers and better relevant offers to our consumers makes it worthwhile. So for us to be able to build trust, it's not only the responsibility of Sabre or Amadeus or other companies. I think all of us across the industry have to work together. And we've been thinking about this concept of a complete trip. So if a customer has a flight delay, you can take Berlin as an example. A lot of people have flight delays now because of strikes, etc. So the minute an airline seat gets impacted, imagine a world where automatically the complete trip component of that customer or a guest could be informed. So there's a lot of data sharing and permission, and especially in Europe, GDPR is a big thing. But imagine if you have the consent of the traveler and the word can go to the hotel that the flight is impacted. So without the consumer doing anything, the hotel, the car, the rail could be able to do something. So that concept of complete trip, I think, is important. That's an effort that we just need to do at a cross-industry level. And the result is that the shopping experience and the overall experience will be much more consistent across different touch points. And I think that's something that we need to work on. How can technology play a role? It can play a big role, right from the inspiration stage to post-travel. The amount of data points that are available is massive. And like I said, at Sabre, we play across the ecosystem. And we have a very strong partnership with Google, which is an AI-first company. And for any supplier or a business to be able to hyper-segment the customers, you can't do that traditional definition of one site, one-dimensional leisure or business. You have to break it up into multiple segments. And the only way to do that is to do it with technology, because the amount of data that you have to handle is massive, and you won't be able to do that yourself. So I'm looking forward to the discussion with the panel, but just as my last slide, where is this heading, the evolution of the modern travel retailing? So the past was very manual process. I think the present, we've made some strides, but it's nowhere close where we need to be, and especially in the travel industry. If you look at Amazon or Google, I think they've done a really good job. Where we are currently is a mixture of rule-based automation, some experimental AI, ML. The chatbots have become cheap, so a lot of hotel companies and travel companies are putting them in front of customers that go play with this, with the knowledge database, so that our cost goes down. But it's not really the future of intelligent automation. So where it's headed is all real-time, using AI and ML programs, generative AI, so that you can break your customer segmentation into 1,000 segments, into 1,000,000 segments. And then the end result is that you can do actually that one-to-one marketing that we used to study about in our B school. So the result is not only can suppliers get better attach rates, better loyalty, but then the guest experience or the traveler experience is really solid. So I just wanted to position this as we get into our panel discussion, and I look forward to the discussion.
Yes, thank you very much, Chinmay Sharma from Sabre. Yes, if you just take that seat. Yes, we'll invite the others to us. So now we have two other companies joining us, and we have their spokesperson. We will have Trip.com Group, and we will have Penta Hotels joining. So I welcome on stage, please, with me, Bunzian Chai from Trip.com Group and Ben Thomas from Penta Hotels. Please join us and take a seat here with us. Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for setting the scene so wonderfully. Chinmay, was a very good start, I'd say, for our panel, and to make this very professional, and let's start on the right side. I will introduce you once again properly so we know who has what perspective, right? So Ben Thomas, you're Chief Commercial Officer at the Penta Hotels, and you are having the operator perspective, right? The hotelier's perspective. Thank you so much for joining. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Right, and then Bunsian Chai, you are Managing Director and Vice President International Market at Trip.com Group. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Wonderful to have you. You have the B2C OTA meta searcher perspective, right? Well, and then we've met you now. We've heard from you. Thank you so much again. Chinmay Sharma, you are Senior Vice President and Global Head of Lodging, Ground and Sea at Sabre Travel Solutions, a player we all know, like one of the leading travel technology companies, and the B2B travel tech provider perspective. So I'd say that's a very good round to discuss what you just shared, and I just want to give the floor to you. Ben, what comes to mind when you hear the first keynote from Chinmay? Do you have any initial thoughts you want to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was really useful to hear, particularly around the hyper-personalization being critical. And in a smaller brand such as we are in terms of a mid-scale size, then actually loyalty is more hard to come across, and the only way you can overcome that is through personalization. I think what was really relevant as well, you said about the people not being willing to pay for sustainability. We had a scheme last year, whereas most hotels do, people could defer housekeeping services, and they had the option of using a coin. Do they want to defer the housekeeping for planting a tree or to get a free drink at the bar? 93% of the people picked the free drink at the bar.
No.
Right, okay.
So,
Yeah,
it's still a work in progress that needs to be done, but it shows that people, are reacting in.
Yeah, the say-do gap, right, that you also mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Bunsian Chai, from your perspective at Trip.com Group, is there any thoughts that come to mind that you want to share initially?
Yeah, okay. I think the paradoxical consumer, as the ever-changing ways that consumers are behaving now, it poses a challenge, but at the same time, it's really an opportunity. And I wouldn't want to say this, but actually, Trip.com Group has thought about these changing paradoxical consumer behaviors way ahead. So, for example, if you look at, I don't know how many of you have downloaded the Trip.com app, but if you look at the Trip.com app, we are very, very content-driven. Right? I mean, I don't know whether you can see it. If the camera can zoom in, I can quickly just show you. This is our app. The top 20% is transaction, but if we just scroll upwards, it's all contents. Now, why are we contents? Because we want to provide these contents to our consumers for them to make the decisions. Because we really do not know, to Chinmay's point, what are the kind of decisions that consumers will make. But by providing information, sharing, what we call trip moments on our app itself, consumers can make the right decisions based on their own decision making. So we've actually moved from what we call a transactional platform to a transactional plus content generating platform, so that consumers can make transactions, but at the same time, they can be inspired, they can be stimulated by different information and contents that users put on the site and things that we recommend on the sites for them to make their informed decisions. So it's a very, very different concept, but we actually started this 3 years ago, and we continue to evolve this based on how consumers are behaving. So that's one thing that we're doing. The other thing that we're doing is we're leveraging AI to actually come up with curated contents. I'll elaborate more later on, to share with you what are some of the things that Trip.com is doing to really be able to work on, the ends and the paradoxical consumer behaviors.
Right. Yeah, that's a good example, right? So, Chinmay, you touched upon it in your keynote, right? You had a very nice slide about it, how we can leverage technology for this challenge. Can you explore, elaborate a bit more about that? Can you give some examples, maybe from Sabre even, what you're doing?
Yeah, I think in order to what we call as hyper-segmentation, I think the only way to do it properly is you need as much data points as possible, because the consumer behavior, like we're discussing, is very complex. And the more technology and data that you can throw into a data lake where you can develop models against it, the better you get. So at Sabre, like I said, we have a 10-year partnership with Google. We do a lot of work with them, and we work directly with Google engineers, and we've launched a few products. We call them Travel IQ, Lodging AI, etc. And we have both consumers to take in mind. One is a B2B customer, and one is a B2C customer. And it's very simple things like if a travel agency partner is booking certain type of hotels, you get that data into your system. And when you're recommending hotels to that travel agency, if it's an agency like Virtuoso, which only books luxury hotels and certain type of activities, then the system automatically promotes those because they will convert better. It reduces the time at the agent level because they find relevant stuff. They don't have to search that much. And then the end customer benefits as well. So this is just a very small example. If a hotel is sold out, what kind of hotels do you recommend? And you can only do that if you have lots of data and with solid A/B testing. And so that's why I think there is no way that we can do it without AI and technology. Yes.
Right, okay, understood. Yeah, and Ben, from your perspective as a hotelier, what would you say are the most significant pain points that you're seeing, challenges hotels are facing with these paradoxical consumer behavior?
Yeah.
And
I think probably the critical one is we still operate in an age where PMS is at the center of everything. So PMS becomes the Bible of everything that happens in a hotel. And actually, I see it a little bit different, sorry, to any PMS providers who are in the room, but it should really be from a CRM perspective, first and foremost, and therefore the PMS is a transactional function to know where the guest is located in that particular property. But imagine a different situation where, as a front desk agent, what I'm seeing on the screen shouldn't be a list of key fields that tells me what the address of the consumer is, but actually what their lifetime value is, what their behavior is, how often they stayed with me before, where else have they come from, and as you said, where have they traveled from? And then once I know that information, then I can start to react upon that information. Whereas at the moment, we're still in this kind of legacy situation. The best way I describe it is imagine going to a retail store and the only thing that you're looking at is a till. And that's essentially what hotels are still doing. It's just a till in front of them without any kind of consumer data. And once we start to have that consumer data, then we can start to personalize. And that's what I think is the next phase that we need to move towards.
yeah, it's a very nice picture you're painting there. I think
That really matches it, right? And we heard about these complaints that consumers come to the front office and they get asked, have you
been with us, and they get asked this every time, and
Yeah,
we talk about
profiles
personalization
recorded.
for years and like CRM and customer. So you
mentioned the
property management system, the
central technology?
core of the hotel tech stack. From your perspective, Sabre. Oh, I get a hand. That's wonderful. My apologies to everyone. So is that better? Yeah, it is, as it is. So you mentioned the property management system, right? From your perspective, looking at that, is it necessary for personalization to have like this central data storage, or do we also decentralize there everything and say, okay, we have it just everywhere? Or would you say that's very important too?
Yeah, no, it has a direct impact because, like Ben mentioned, at the front desk level, they're interacting only with the PMS, whereas a lot of activity is happening at the CRS. And a lot of activity is happening on third-party partners like Trip.com or Expedia, etc. So I think the way the technology partners need to work together is that the platform needs to be capable of passing as much information as possible about the customer. And the APIs need to be flexible, and the pipes need to be strong enough to send all that behavior down. And then, the traveler will have a great experience at the airline level, or at the hotel level or the car rental level. So at least at Sabre, we've got like two divisions. One is Sabre Hospitality, which is a full tech stack, including PMS, POS, CRS. And then the travel solution side, we play on the GDS platform, and then we service, all our supply partners with agencies. And everywhere, our thought process is pass as much information as you can, which the supply partners want to provide and the agencies want to consume. But it's our responsibility, all our responsibility, to make sure that the tech platform is capable of doing everything. Because when Leah checks in the Four Seasons in Paris, they need to know what they need to know what your preferences are.
Right,
Yes.
no, absolutely.
Yes.
No, absolutely. That's a pain point we're discussing for years, right? And well, Chai, from your perspective at Trip.com Group, right? How would you say can operators really meet the demands of the short attention span consumer? What advice would you share with them?
I think a few things, right? So I think, again, going back to Chinmai's point about the end part that McKinsey reports talked about, we are trying to really be ahead of time. So, for example, what we introduce a product, what we call a Hotel Plus X product, because basically consumers are not just looking for a hotel stay, they're looking to experience the property. So our app itself is able to combine both the rooms plus experiences like the spa, activities, afternoon tea, so that we offer an all-round experience for the customer. It's a win-win-win for both the customer, the hotel, and us, because basically, the customer is able to experience the property and the services that the hotel is able to provide. They can be very tailored to what kind of products that they want to have in the hotel. And for us, we're going to drive higher conversion itself. So that's one thing that I think we will help operators with. The other thing that we do is also we have rolled out an AI assistant, what we call Trip Genie. Trip Genie, I introduced this last year in the WTM. Now I can share more data with you, but before that, let me just share with you very quickly what Trip Genie is. Basically, let's say, for example, you come to Berlin, you have 5 days, you want to ask Trip Genie, so what can I do here? Trip Genie will come up with a 5-day itinerary to say, okay, you come here, you can go to these places, and we actually also provide you a link to actually drive, you actually do transactions on the app itself with regards to your flight bookings and your hotel bookings and your activities booking. So that was what we launched. I can share with you some data. For example, we see that users who use Trip Genie has actually doubled the conversion rate on our app versus users who don't use Trip Genie. So that's one data point. The other data point is that people who use Trip Genie actually spend more time on our app. They spend about 20 minutes more on our app versus users who don't. Last but not least, we have already more than 1 million queries on Trip Genie. So this, again, I think, we understand that consumers have different behaviors. We can't predict them, but we provide this technology and assistance to support them in this exercise.
Right, I see. Thank you for sharing. And I mean, yeah, we have way too little time for this complex topic. And you said it, right? We want to have 1 million points where we understand the customer. So we're adding complexity to the already complex travel ecosystem. But I mean, for the audience here, you want to go home and you want to have a takeaway, right? You want to really maybe get advice. It's a unique chance, right? So considering what we just heard, what you shared this morning, and then looking at this dynamic landscape, what's your key advice to operators in the industry? Where to start, how to approach this, and what are the key considerations you should really consider when doing this?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that if you're on the supply side, let's say you're a hotel supplier, I think it's very important to make sure that you're investing money in capital expenditure to make sure the hotels and the airlines and the flights are in good shape. But then you also need to carve out a certain amount of money as investing in technology, because otherwise you can't connect the dots, and the consumer won't even show up if you don't invest in technology. So our approach is that just make sure that you continuously stay in front of the consumer, what the consumer preferences are. And the minute you lose sight of the customer, I think that's when things start to break down. So everybody's used to flat panel TVs at home. When they go to a hotel, if they see an old TV which doesn't have high def, they will just check out mentally. So there are many examples like this, but I think the key takeaway would be don't take technology for granted. You need to continuously invest. It's almost like the soil, because everything else will grow on top of it. But without the soil,
foundational.
Without the foundation, you can't make things work. The other thing I would request is all the suppliers, they need to force technology partners to work together, just so that we pass as much data as you as a consumer want us to pass. But that will result in better experiences, and then we'll be able to segment the customers in the right way, so that we're just not sending random offers and promotions, but they're very relevant to you, and hopefully we'll make some money as well.
Right, so budget and yeah, focus. So
Yes.
Ben, what would you say? What would be your advice, especially from an operator's perspective, right?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think CRM is key. Having that data leverage point and understanding the purpose of that data is what will be critical, so that you can, we've got that situation, as Chinmay referenced, but at home, when I get close to my house, my temperature will turn in the house, right? These things are normal. They're not particularly life-changing anymore. But really, for hotels, we're so far behind in that regard that imagine going into the hotel room that I stayed in last night and the temperature was at the same temperature that I always have it at. And these things are what will make a difference. And that technology is there, but we have to leverage and share that data.
Right. And then maybe one closing thought from you, from the Trip.com perspective. What would you say are like the major trends that will shape the future of travel in that regard?
I think major trend will be definitely AI technology. And I just want to go back to your question previously, which is how you can sort of leverage technology, right? My advice to operators would be, do what you do best. What you do best is service. What you do best is to serve our customers, make them have a tremendous experience in your property. Let us do what we do best, which is technology. Right, I want to introduce a product that has been doing really well, which is our live streaming product. It was led by our chairman 3 years ago in mainland China. We have started to roll out in international destinations. Basically, it's a live streaming product that we actually feature properties in different destinations to really showcase those destinations and those products. It has garnered over $1 billion worth of GMV, over $1 billion views, and we have started to feature different destinations. It will come to Europe soon. Once all the restrictions and all the flight capacity start to pick up, we will start to feature Europe destinations. So wait for it, it's coming.
Right, thank you, Jaya. There's so much to learn about what you have in store, right, for the industry, and I think Sabre as well. So, Chinmay, tell us, where can we find the Sabre team at ITB if they want to learn more and want to hear about what you can
Yes,
offer?
we are 65 of us, and we're scattered across different halls, but we've got 2 big booths. One is in Hall 9 and one is in Hall 5. So we're happy to interact with you and meet you.
Yeah, wonderful. And Ben, you are around as well for the next days?
Yep, here. Yeah,
Yes.
no booth, but I'm here.
Yes, and then a recommendation from my end is a no-brainer, but I still want to point it out. Follow them on LinkedIn. I do, and I learn a lot, so I really enjoy reading their content. I can only recommend it for every speaker on the ITB Berlin Convention. That's a good way to connect. Well, time's up. I really enjoyed this. It was too little time, I feel, but we just do it again. How about that? So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Chinmay
you.
Sharma from
It's our
Sabre,
pleasure.
Brunsyan Chai from Twitter.com Group, and Ben Thomas from Penta Hotels. And I say, back to Katie.